Hi guys, it's Camille, and Epic Universe has low-key, actually no, has high-key become a hyperfixation of mine as of late. Epic Universe is Universal Orlando's newest theme park. It's the first new theme park that Central Florida has seen since Islands of Adventure opened up 26 years ago. I had the opportunity to go during 2 of the annual passholder previews. I went at the very end of April with my parents and the youngest sister, and then I went again May 13th with my other sister, and her and I both vlogged our time at the park, which is what is now the massive Epic Universe vlog that's on the channel. If you haven't seen it and you would like to, I'll leave the link up in the corner. And I just had so much to say about the park, and specifically the portals and the rides, and just I had so much things that I wanted to say, but I could not say because the video was darn near an hour, so I couldn't. And it's been eating away at me, all of these thoughts, for the past few weeks. It's just like I need to yap, and I need to spew these out to somebody, and hopefully somebody wouldn't mind just sitting and listening to me ramble for however long this video is gonna wind up being. I just have so much to say about the park. So much to say, and so much to say specifically about the portals, because I got a lot of opinions on all 4 portals. And that's when I thought, how about I make a separate video ranking the portals, because that's what I really want to talk about. And I want to talk about which portals I thought were the best portals and which portals I thought were the worst portals. And when I decided I was going to do this, I figured, you know, the 2 preview visits simply were not enough for a ranking of this kind of magnitude. No. I needed to go one more time so I can spend a decent amount of time in each of the portals. So I went back May 30th alone, spending a few hours in each of the portals, documenting all of my overall thoughts on the rides, food, atmosphere, while also taking into account the 2 previous visits that I had. Yes, I actually wrote stuff down. I for real took this journal with me and sat down in several of the portals, with the exception of Nintendo World, and just documented everything that I felt was worth documenting, because I wanted to take so many different things into consideration, and I felt like the only way I could truly appreciate some of these portals was by going in there and spending a significant amount of time in them. You can't rush these things. I need the time to process. So for today's video, we're gonna rank the Epic Universe portals. How this ranking is gonna work for the 4 portals is that I will be ranking them from worst to best. The portals will be ranked based off of the rides, the shows if applicable to that portal, the characters, the food, the general pros and cons of each portal, and then a more personal one, how autism friendly they are. Now you may be wondering why I'm including that last one in particular. For those of you who are new to the channel and have never seen me before, I'm on the autism spectrum, but I love the parks. I have a whole series of videos dedicated to all of the quiet areas in the 4 Disney parks here in Florida. I plan on making those kinds of videos for the Universal parks because I am slowly but surely starting to frequent them more. And I just wanted to see just how friendly some of these portals were for people who are like me and probably have sensory issues or are neurodivergent in some way, shape, or form. So come with me. I have lots to discuss. I have many things I want to talk about. I've been waiting to make this for a very long time, and I cannot wait to talk about it now, finally. So without further ado, let's get started. We're gonna start off with what I consider the worst portal in Epic Universe, and it pains me to say that this portal I consider to be the worst one, because it was the one portal I was the most excited for personally. New Super Super Nintendo World is the first portal that you're gonna come across if you entered the park on the left side. It is the 3rd Super Nintendo World that Universal has built. The first one was in Universal Japan, and the second one is over at Universal Hollywood. Allegedly, the Super Nintendo World in Epic Universe is the largest of the Super Nintendo Worlds that Universal has built. It consists of 3 rides: Yoshi's Adventure, Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, and Donkey Kong Minecart Madness. It has 1 main quick service restaurant, which is Toadstool Cafe, but there's a couple other snack booths like the Bubbly Barrel and Yoshi's Snack Island. You can meet a select few Mario characters and Donkey Kong himself, and it is hands down my least favorite, and in my opinion, the worst portal in the entire park. Now I want to start this off with the pros and the positives, because there are a lot of positives to this portal. The big positive is the theming. If you are at all a fan of the Mario games or the Donkey Kong games, this land is jaw-dropping when you see it for the first time. Even how you enter this land is super elaborate compared to how you enter the other 3 portals. You go up the warp pipe. You're greeted with a set of escalators that take you up the green pipe, and you hear the whoop 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 whoop, and the lights go. And once you're out of the warp pipe, you're in Peach's castle. And when you step out onto that balcony for the first time and you see the entire land, it's overwhelming just how detailed it is. I cannot stress how cute the entire land is, especially the Mario area. It is so adorable. You've got piranha plants, and you got Goombas, and you got Koopas. You can see the train of Yoshis off in the distance, which is the Yoshi ride. There's question blocks everywhere and so many different little interactive elements throughout that portal that you, the guest, can play with like you're in the video games. The rides are also the most family-friendly of the entire park. Epic Universe's rides in general are definitely more tame compared to the other Universal Orlando parks, at least in my opinion. But hands down, the most family-friendly rides all exist in Super Nintendo World. Yoshi's Adventure is very similar to People Mover over at Magic Kingdom, or the High in the Skies trolley train ride over at Seuss Landing and Islands of Adventure. The Mario Kart ride utilizes the same type of ride technology that Men in Black uses, just without all of the excessive spinning. And Donkey Kong Minecart Madness is a family coaster that also happens to have the lowest of the height requirements for the coasters in that park. Of the rides that I got to actually check out in Nintendo World, I got to ride Mario Kart and the Yoshi Adventure. And Mario Kart was definitely my favorite of the two. It's so well done. I definitely prefer without the VR visors, as I feel like the CPU characters definitely diminish how much you're able to view of the beautifully detailed sets, so I just preferred not to play the game and just look around. And for me, it was just as fun. I liked it. I also love the character selection that you have here. As those who are more familiar with my channel know, I love the theme park characters. I love the meet and greets. They are so much fun. It's one of my favorite aspects of Disney World. One of my most popular videos is gifting the Disney characters Christmas ornaments during Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. I did not get to meet any of the characters in Nintendo World, but of the characters that you can choose, there's Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, Donkey Kong, and Toad. Toad is the most elusive out of all of them. A unique aspect with the characters too is that with the exception of Donkey Kong and Toad, Mario, Luigi, and Peach can actually talk to you. It's all pre-recorded lines, but their masks are animated so their mouths move. So when you hear them speak to you for the first time, it's kind of alarming because it's like, that's not how it usually is with the fur characters. So it was a delight to see that from a distance. So yeah, it's well themed, it's super cute, there's fun characters, there's family-friendly rides, so what's not to like about it? A lot. Out of all of the portals in Epic Universe, okay, I'm talking all of them, Super Nintendo World is a sensory hell. It is the most overstimulating part of the park. It is the most overstimulating theme park land that I think I have ever come across. It's constant overstimulation. And the thing is that if you really think about it, it's by design. Because you've got all these little mini games going on, all these fun little interactive elements going on, and on top of that, because of how the land is laid out, you feel boxed in. And so you feel the crowds more in there. Think of the layout this way, and my sister brought this up to me when we were driving home after our second preview visit. She described it to me like this. You know how when you're looking at a TV and you've got a video game and you're trying to get your character to leave the screen, but it can't, it just hits the sides of the TV, so to speak. That is what it's like. You're surrounded by these fiberglass hills and walls that are multicolored and practically neon, and because there is no open space and you really can't see any real world things, so to speak, you are in the game. You are in Nintendo Land, whether you want to stay there or not. And because of how it's laid out and how crowded it gets, that's where some of the longest waits of the entire park are. I guess that's how it is with the other Nintendo Worlds and the other two Universal parks too. Even if you were to take the people out of the equation, the land would still be just too much because of all the noise from all of the interactive elements and the fact that they blare the Mario soundtrack and crank it up to 11. So I mean, it's loud to the point where I had to wear earplugs for the majority of the times I went in there and kept them in because it was too much. On top of that, it feels like you are roasting on the surface of the sun. And when it rains, you feel like you're about to slip and break a hip because the ground is unbelievably slippery when wet. I think it's because of the paint that they used. The Yoshi ride also is going to go into the negatives, as much as I hate to say it, because it's the Yoshi ride, and People Mover is one of my favorite rides at Magic Kingdom. And on the other end of the spectrum, the trolley train ride over at Islands of Adventure I really love too. You're in this queue, and you have to go up a spiral staircase to get to the loading dock. And once you're up there and you're boarded in your Yoshi and you pull down the lap bar and you slowly make your way out, you go outside, you see a few things, you turn around on a corner and you go into a warp pipe, you see a cute little scene in there, you come back out the warp pipe, and then you're back in the building. That's it. That's the ride. It is so painfully short, and I was actually kind of mad about it. Think of it this way. People Mover at Magic Kingdom takes you around the entirety of Tomorrowland. The trolley train ride at Islands of Adventure takes you around the entirety of Seuss Landing. Plus you get the opportunity to ride it on 2 different tracks depending on where the team member places you. Yoshi Ride, I thought was going to take you all over Nintendo Land. Oh no, it only takes you around a corner of Nintendo Land, specifically for that ride. And I was so disappointed because it's like, yeah, it's a nice little gentle family ride, I get it. But on top of the fact that you're roasting in the sun because there is no shade from the ride vehicles and there is no shade around you except for when you go into the warp pipe and you're technically inside for 5 seconds. It's just a corner! It's just a tiny corner of Nintendo World. It would have been so much cooler if it took you around the entirety of Nintendo World. Imagine taking a Yoshi through the Peach's castle or taking it through Bowser's castle. I mean, my goodness gracious, there were so many missed opportunities. So many missed opportunities. Nintendo World's also got the worst food in the entire park. I didn't get to eat at every single place in Epic Universe, but I can safely say that the worst food that I had in the park was at Toadstool Cafe. My sister and I both got the Mario burgers, and not only were these burgers cold to the point that the cheese wasn't even melted, our buns were super stale. We also got the cheesy Toadstool garlic knots, which aren't even cheesy. They're just garlic knots, and they dust like a couple little pieces of Parmesan on it and call it good. That's also not mentioning the fact that they were also cold, and even the marinara sauce that the knots came with was also cold. In my vlog, I had called it the cosmic rays of Epic Universe because I was shocked by how bad the food quality was, and it was even more alarming given the fact that I had had really good food throughout the rest of the park. I didn't get to eat at Bubbly Barrel and have the little banana ice cream thing that you can get there, mostly because they were constantly running out because of how popular it was, and also the line was wrapped around the barrel. And Yoshi Snack Island, I actually couldn't find it until the last visit that I went there, and it's right there next to the stroller parking. It's so hidden, it's like blink and you miss it. As far as how autism friendly the land is, it's not. Just plain and simple. Between the noise from all of the interactive elements and just the land itself, to how crowded and congested it gets, it's actually very disappointing how overstimulating the land is. And it's like, I get it. It's a video game, and video games in nature are just chaotic in general, especially a lot of the Mario and Donkey Kong ones. But it's like, it's a lot to process. And for anybody who has even worse sensory issues, they're not gonna have a good time. One of the other cons that I have with this portal, while it's not at all major compared to some of the other ones that I've talked about, this is just a more minor one. If you want to be able to get the proper sound effects when interacting with the question blocks and all the other power-up elements in Nintendo World, the only way you can do that is if you purchase one of these bad boys. This is a power-up band. Mine is Princess Peach themed because I love pink. Pink is my favorite color, and Peach is one of my favorite Mario characters. Your power-up band is a slap bracelet with a massive medallion in the center, and the sensor in this is supposed to trigger the sensors that are in the interactive elements of that portal, and it's supposed to set off all the fun sound effects. You can earn coins if you link it to the Universal app. Even in Mario Kart, if you scan your band on the center of your steering wheel, you can link your Universal account to your ride vehicle, and you can score points and stuff in the ride if you choose to play the game. So this is a slap bracelet. At least for me, it has an awkward fit. It has a rather tight fit. I don't like wearing it. And this bad boy you can get for the low price of $50. Yes, 50, not 15, sorry. If you want to dedicate your time playing around with all of the interactive elements in Super Nintendo World, you can purchase this. You don't have to have multiple. You can buy one band and just share it with your entire group. That's what I saw a lot of other families do. But to that I say, where's the fun in that? Because obviously some of us want to have our own band, you know? So while Super Nintendo World is very cute, it's beautifully themed, and it's got some fun character meet and greet options, and it's got the most family-friendly rides of the park. It's by far the most overstimulating portal of Epic Universe. It's got the worst food. It deals with the worst crowds, some of the worst wait times in the park, and it's just overall a generally unpleasant vibe, and I really don't even recommend it unless you are a die-hard Nintendo fan. Moving on to our next portal, the second weakest portal of Epic Universe was one that I was not expecting to get down to this spot. I do want to keep in mind the following 3 portals I feel like are vastly superior compared to Super Nintendo World, in my humble opinion. But when it came down to ranking which one would be the second weakest of the portals, I was not expecting this one because this one was the one that enchanted me the most when I saw it the first time in April. But with that being said, after going back an additional 2 times, I can safely confirm that it's definitely the weakest of the Harry Potter lands.
I found the source of the ticking! It's a pipe bomb!
Yay!
Harry Potter and the Ministry of Magic takes a slightly different approach to their land compared to Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade, in which 90% of the portal is actually based off of 1920s Paris because you're set in the timeline of the Fantastic Beasts movies. That is with the exception of the main attraction that is in that portal and what's arguably the largest attraction in all of Epic Universe, which is where you take the Time Turner and the Metro Flu and you time travel back to Harry Potter and the Battle at the Ministry. This portal has one stage show, which is Les Cirques Arcaneux, which, like the majority of this portal, is based off of the Fantastic Beasts franchise. There are several walk-around characters, mainly the Auror, who is like a wizard cop. There's the French wand lady, whose name slips my mind. I'll flash it on the screen here. I literally can't think of the name at the moment. Along with several wizarding students from multiple schools, including everybody's favorite Hogwarts. And what's arguably, in my opinion, the coolest character interaction is the talking portrait that's over in the back alley. There are 2 decent-sized quick service restaurants that are in Ministry of Magic. I gotta pull this out because I'm probably gonna butcher the pronunciation. The first one is Café L'Air de la Sirene, and the second one is Le Goblet Noir, which is much easier to say. The cafe serves French cuisine, whereas Le Goblet Noir serves a lot of German cuisine. There's also a bar called Bar Moonshine. I don't personally drink alcohol, so I didn't go there. And then, of course, like with every Harry Potter land, you gotta have a butterbeer cart, but make it French. So to start off with the positives of this portal, because there are a ton of positives with this portal, it's beautifully designed. Like Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade, you literally feel like you've been transported to that world. And a lot of that has to do with these massive buildings that surround you. Because of the tall buildings, it actually provides the land a lot of shade, which is huge considering that most of Epic Universe has a shade problem and that there isn't any. At least not yet. It literally feels like you've time traveled back into 1920s Paris, and it's beautifully done. Because this section of the park is Fantastic Beasts themed, there's a lot of interactive wand elements throughout that section of the park, kind of like Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley, only this time you're trying to find all the little fantastic beasts, along with casting spells on random objects throughout the land. You can also find fantastic beasts throughout Paris and not even need to have a wand. The moon calf is definitely my favorite one. Look at this cute little guy. Look at those eyes. They're like sapphires. They're like big balls. I personally did not get to eat at Cafe Sirene, which is at the front of the portal, but I have heard glorious things about the butterbeer crepe and that supposedly that cafe's got some of the best food in Epic Universe in general. I did get to eat at Le Goblet Noir, where I had, of all things, matzo ball soup. They call it canola soup, but it's matzo ball soup. I mean, come on, that's matzo ball soup. You get 2 nice-sized matzo balls along with roasted chicken and veggies and a rich chicken broth, and you get a little side salad with it. And it was very tasty considering it came out of a theme park. I don't drink alcohol, so I did not visit Bar Moonshine, nor did I try any of the mocktails. And butterbeer, everybody likes butterbeer. Most people like butterbeer. I personally prefer my butterbeer hot. You can currently only get cold butterbeer or frozen butterbeer at that cart in Ministry of Magic, so you have been warned. Les Cirques Arcaneux was one of the biggest surprises that I had while visiting not just Ministry of Magic, just in the entire park in general. It's only one of 2 stage shows in the entirety of Epic Universe, and it blew me away the first time that I saw it. And when I saw it again when I went back to the park on the 30th, it still kind of blew my mind, especially now knowing what I was going into and being in a room full of people who have never seen the show and just hearing the initial reactions. Just it's so fun. There's a couple weak points in the show, admittedly, but whenever the actual Fantastic Beasts are shown and you get into the main plot line involving them, it's really, really well done. The Battle at the Ministry queue is one of the most gorgeously made queues I had ever set foot into. Videos and pictures of the Ministry of Magic do not do it justice, okay? Like, being there in person was mind-blowing, especially when you actually get to do the Metro Flu effect and you get to travel by flu powder. I was geeking out so hard when I finally got to do it in person with my sister, and just, we were blown away. I did not get to ride Battle at the Ministry, mostly because virtual queue was really hard to get during previews, and then when I finally went back there in person, I was not about to wait 5 to 6 hours for the ride. Just no. I would like to try it though, because I have heard it's very similar to how Transformers and Spider-Man works, but with the ride vehicle for Tower of Terror. So, I don't know. I think that sounds pretty cool, so I am willing to try it, Lord willing, if the wait time ever goes down relatively low. But the queue itself is stunning. I got to do the walking tour with my sister when we went on the preview for May 13th, and it was so cool. It took us 20 minutes with nobody really in front of us to walk through that whole thing. And a nice bonus is that all of the queue is inside, so it's air conditioned. So if you are gonna wait for a while, at least you got AC. So you're probably wondering, what are my cons with this land? Well, there's not a whole lot to it. 90% of the buildings in there are facades. There are a handful of gift shops. Most of the merchandise is just your basic Harry Potter merchandise that you're gonna find throughout the other Universal parks and at City Walk, with the exception of some of the more French-themed Harry Potter merchandise, like the little Hogwarts-themed berets. Those are really cute. There's a little pastry shop that's right across the street from the cafe that sells macarons, and it's so pretty and pink in there, oh my gosh. But aside from that, and a teeny tiny French wand shop, there really isn't a whole lot that you can actually walk through. 90% of those buildings are just facades, mostly for the interactive bits. Sometimes it's not even interactive, it's just for looks or for forced perspective purposes. There is a building that's across the street from the wand shop that's actually supposed to be a fully functioning bakery, but it's not open and it's not slated to open until sometime next year. This is also the only portal that has one ride and one ride only, and one stage show, which I think also adds to its detriment, because Battle at the Ministry has by far the worst of the wait times in the entire park, which is not surprising given Universal's track record with their Harry Potter rides. They usually almost always see significantly longer wait times because it's Harry Potter. I absolutely adored interacting with the talking portrait, and I did get to meet the French R 2 times. I got to see him with my baby sister back in April, and I got to meet him a second time when I went back on the 30th, and it was pouring down rain. Him and I were standing next to each other, hiding underneath an awning in front of one of the facade buildings, and I almost forgot he was a character because I complimented him on his nice little dapper hat, and it wasn't until he started talking to me with a thick French accent and was wondering why so many Americans are in Paris at the moment, I was like, oh boy, I forgot this is a character. But honestly, the painted portrait was probably my favorite character interaction in that portal. The aura is really cool, don't get me wrong, but I'm also not familiar with Fantastic Beasts or its lore, mostly because I don't care. I also didn't get to see the students. I also didn't get to see the French wand maker. I'm sure they're all delightful, but it just didn't appeal to me as much as some of the other character interactions that I had in the park, so they're okay. Compared to Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade, I do unfortunately deem Ministry of Magic as the weakest of the three. Mostly because I feel like a big part of that is because most of that land is dedicated to Fantastic Beasts, which I personally don't care for, but I think a lot of people don't really care for it. Yeah, they got cute animals and all, and it's got that one guy from Les Mis, but I don't care. I think a lot of people just wanted to have another really fun adventure with mainly Harry and the gang if you were going to do another Harry Potter land, especially dedicated to Ministry of Magic, which they do that for the ride, but that's it. So it is what it is. It's more of a personal thing. With the exception of the stage show, I just really did not get into the whole French wizarding world. You know, that's just me. I will say though, on a more positive note, as far as how autism friendly this portal is, It is for the most part. Like the other two Harry Potter lands, there are so many nooks and crannies that don't typically see a lot of people, at least from when I went. There's this one near Les Goblet Noir, that whole alley area where Les Goblet Noir is located, and the painted portrait. Not a lot of people go back there. There was this whole square that really was not occupied unless there was people trying to interact with the windows with their wands. But honestly, there really wasn't very many people. Because of how the land is laid out, it is very sprawling for the most part. So you can get away from crowds if you need to, but that back alley, mwah, chef's kiss. As an added bonus, Les Goblet Noir in general, at least when I went, it was practically empty. The restaurant is huge and there's like 6 massive dining rooms to choose from. I had a whole dining room to myself when I went on the 30th. It was delightful. And the AC in there is nice and crispy. And it's got some pretty good food, and I know that soup is gonna hit so hard once it's actually cold here in Florida. I can't wait. So while Ministry of Magic is beautifully designed, has a couple fun character interactions, one of the most gorgeous ride queues I've ever seen, a really well done stage show, some fun options if you happen to have a wand to interact with, along with some really nice quiet areas and some tasty food, the whole land is just lacking, and I feel like one of its biggest detriments is the fact that 90% of it is themed after Fantastic Beasts. Outside of the ride and the stage show, there's only like a couple gift shops with the same Harry Potter merchandise that you can get in the other Universal parks, with the exception of the French themed ones. And there really just isn't much else to the land outside of the 2 main attractions. So now we're down to our last 2 portals, and I just want to put it out there right now. These last 2 portals I love to bits, but the second best portal of Epic Universe is my favorite out of all 4 of them. Like, hands down, without a doubt, no questions asked, it's my favorite one, which is really funny when you think about it, because this is coming out of somebody who looks like this and has a bedroom that looks like this.
Hear sounds, rig, 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 rig.
Dark Universe is the portal dedicated to the Universal monsters. The land contains 2 rides, Monsters Unchained, the Frankenstein Experiment, which is a dark ride that utilizes the same KUKA robotic arm system that Forbidden Journey over at Islands of Adventure uses, and then Curse of the Werewolf, which is a spinny coaster. It's got one main quick service restaurant, which is Das Steakhouse. It's the vampire restaurant. That's where all the spooky vampires hang out. But there's 2 other quick service eateries that aren't as big and fledged out as Das Steakhouse, but they've got some tasty bites. That would be Burning Blade Tavern, which is the big windmill that's nearby Curse of the Werewolf. That's where all the monster hunters hang out. And then there's DeLacy's Cottage, which is a little blink and you miss it building that's right behind the Frankenstein Manor. Dark Universe also has some of the most fun character interactions, in my opinion. Of the characters you can meet Igor, you can meet the Bride of Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster, and then finally Jack Griffin, also known as the Invisible Man. You can also see this roaming violinist. They play their violins in real time and sometimes they'll tell you stories. And you can also find the monster hunters over at Burning Blade Tavern. To give you all some context, I do not partake in Halloween Horror Nights because I am a big chicken. Not just a ride chicken, just a chicken in general. The idea of the haunted houses and the scare zones do not sound fun to me. I am more of a Mickey's not so scary Halloween party kind of gal, if you know what I mean. But with that being said, I do have a fondness for the horror genre. Dark Universe is so much fun. It's not Horror Nights scary as much as it is just gothic and creepy, you know? It's all about more of the vibes than it is jumping out and trying to scare you. The village of Darkmoor is beautifully designed and has a lot of fun little Easter eggs to the classic Universal monster movies. The Lion's Head was the inn that the Invisible Man was taking residency in for a good portion of the Invisible Man movie, for example. There's a lot of Easter eggs in the queue for Monsters Unchained that are specifically for Frankenstein. There's a photo of Henry and his wife that's hanging above the fireplace. I thought that was a really nice touch. And easily the coolest artifact, you can see the Boris Karloff Frankenstein displayed in a display case in one of the rooms of the queue. And it's so cool, oh my gosh. There's so many little details in Darkmoor that I really appreciate. I love that there you can find random dead skeletons hanging in cages in the lampposts. I love that all of the lampposts that are near Victoria's castle have a ton of electrical cords running through them. That's a nice touch. I really love the Romanite gypsy vibe that's going on over in the werewolf section. I love the little gift shop where you can find the other mad scientist, Dr. Pretorius, and all of his little specimens and his cases displayed with his different tools and thingamabobs. I love the little specimen jars, but the little monster baby things, those are probably some of the ugliest, cutest things that I've ever seen. I love them to bits. Even the cemetery has some really nice details, including a tombstone dedicated to the little girl that died in the Frankenstein movie. Even the windows are a lot of fun too. One of my personal favorite display windows is the one that's right next to Jack's stoop, which is a window that belongs to Dr. Jekyll's apothecary. You can look inside and see all the different little potions and things that are being made in there and all the weird little concoctions. But the best part is that every now and again you can hear Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde arguing back and forth with each other. And it's so fun. The food in Dark Universe also happens to be some of the best that I've had in the park. Das Steakhouse had some surprisingly tasty things. Bird on a steak was definitely a favorite, but if you're somebody who's not as adventurous, they do have chicken tenders on a stick. And it's really cute how they present it because they're on sticks. They also have seasoned fries, that's a bonus. Mashed potatoes and the roasted veggies that you get are also pretty good. They also have one of my favorite dessert items that I got in the park, which is the Red Death. It's a coffin-shaped red velvet cake, and it's really, really good. Surprisingly good for quick service. Burning Blade is primarily a bar, but you can get food there. And I got the Burning Blade burger, and it was surprisingly tasty. And despite the fact that it's a black bun, the bun was soft and not stale, unlike the Mario one. The Lacey's Cottage only has 2 food items, the Frankenstein pretzel that you can get with or without the cheese, and they also have these little cinnamon donut bites. I did not get the cinnamon donut bites, but I did get the Frankenstein pretzel, and while it is pretty good, it's better than a Mickey pretzel in my opinion. It was also $13, and I was like, no, not when you can get a Mickey pretzel for $8, absolutely not, that ain't worth that. I did try the Monocane, which is a mocktail. You can get the Monocane at both Das Steakhouse and at Burning Blade. I had it at Das Steakhouse, and it comes in a fun souvenir beaker that you get to keep, and you can refill it for an additional charge. So it's Sprite with pineapple, blue raspberry, and passion fruit, but I tasted more the pineapple than anything else. It's essentially pineapple Sprite with edible green glitter, and it's really pretty to look at. It is super, super sweet. The characters in Dark Universe are hands down some of my favorite theme park character interactions that I've ever had, not just in Epic Universe, but just in general. They're so fun. By far the most popular of the characters is Igor, who's Dr. Victoria's assistant. He is so funny. This character cracks me up. He is so random and so unhinged and so unabashedly himself and just so weird and kooky. He's so funny. You never know what you're gonna hear out of him when you see him. He is the certified funny bone tickler of Dark Universe, metaphorically speaking. I have been blessed with seeing this specific character twice in the 3 times I visited Epic Universe. The first time was in April. I met him with my little sister because she also wanted to see him really bad, and he was hanging out over by the werewolf cart. And then I saw him again when I went alone on the 30th of May. I saw him at the werewolf cart, but I didn't get to talk to him until his next set over by the cemetery. I did not film my interaction, unfortunately. I wish I did, but I was so in the moment. I was just having a really good time. I was complimenting him on his driving capabilities for the ride, and I had asked him who his favorite monster was that they keep in the manor, to which he tells me he doesn't like any of them. But if he had to choose one, he would pick Eric, who is the Phantom of the Opera, which got me really excited because Eric is my favorite in the manor as well. And Igor was like, you know, he's really good with music, but I can't stand how much he talks about his ex, to which I was like, oh, Christine, to which he proceeds to heave at the mere mention of her name, to which I mentioned to him, well, I know her because back where I come from, the Phantom story was made into a musical. And he looks up at me and he's like, a musical? Like, yeah, a musical is a type of play where most of the major story beats are told through song and dance, so there's lots of singing and dancing, and Phantom of the Opera's got a really gorgeous soundtrack. I couldn't tell what his eyes looked like because of the goggles, but I could imagine he looked absolutely bewildered at the things that I had said, and he was like, I don't doubt that, but I've never heard of this, and he never told me he has a musical. Is he getting residuals? I'm like, well, I don't know, I imagine he is. You'd have to take that up with him. He's like, well, he's never mentioned this to me. So I feel like one of you is lying. Are you lying to me? And I'm like, no, dude, I can't lie. I don't know how. I then got a selfie with him, well, multiple selfies. The bride and the monster are probably the most wholesome of the characters you can meet in Dark Universe. I only got to meet them once during the first preview that I attended, and it was so cute. It's fun because Frankenstein's monster is so young, canonically speaking, that he's just learning about these things and the whole world is new to him and is just very precious in a macabre sort of way. The bride has a more extended vocabulary, and that's because she's much older than the monster. The violinists do also talk to you as well. My sister and I got to speak to one when we went on the 13th of May for the second preview. The monster hunters are also pretty underrated. I only got to meet one when I went to Burning Blade when I went solo on the 30th. His name was Gregor, and he was a hoot. I'm standing there at the pickup window and I got my food and I'm waiting for a couple of people to leave a table so I can go snag it. And Gregor approaches me and he's like, "See, you're already well prepared because you got a steak," because they put a little, like a long toothpick inside the burger. And he's like, "Now you can defend yourself." And then he proceeds to talk about how the best way to outrun the monsters is not necessarily to outrun them, but to create obstacles. And tripping small children in particular is a really good way to do that because they're small and they can't run as fast. And I was like, but I don't want to trip children. And he's like, well, when it's life or death, are you really not going to trip them? I'm like, well, I mean, when you put it like that, I mean, I can. He's like, okay, good, you're all set. But by far, probably my favorite of the character interactions, next to Igor, because Igor is my favorite too, but one that comes at a very, very close second is Jack Griffin, aka the Invisible Man. The Invisible Man has a variety of personalities. I got to see the Invisible Man all 3 visits to Epic Universe that I had. The very first time I saw him, he was intimidating but polite and firm. He was hanging out on his stoop. The second time I saw the Invisible Man was at the second preview that I attended with my sister, and Jack was in a very flirtatious and touchy mood. I was not expecting that level of intimacy from him. The short where I asked him if the Monoking was going to kill me, that was the second time I got to speak with him, and he remembered me from the hour before, which was really fun. He got really close, and while he didn't place his hand around my throat that time, he placed both hands on my shoulders. If I wasn't so stunned at the moment, I probably would have asked him for a hug. But then the final time that I saw him was when I went by myself. It's dark out, and he wasn't walking around, but instead they had him set up as a traditional meet and greet, and I went in line for him. And when I heard him screaming at the other families that were in there, I knew I was in for a treat. I was mentally preparing for what kind of insanity was going to ensue because Jack was in a raging lunatic kind of mood. That's where the bonding with Invisible Man short came from, was that entire interaction, and praise God, he was actually really nice to me. I've been fortunate enough that every time I've met the Invisible Man, whether he was in his raging lunatic mood, or he was super flirtatious, or if he was just intimidating but polite, all 3 times that I have seen him, he's been very, very nice to me, which I am forever grateful for that. Pretty sure after the 3rd visit, we're friends now. I don't know. Of the rides that I got to ride, I did not ride Curse of the Werewolf, and that was by choice. I'm very timid when it comes to roller coasters in general, but I don't like spinny rides, like intensely spinny rides, and Curse of the Werewolf is basically playing Russian roulette with a spinny coaster, to which I politely declined that experience, so I chose not to ride it. But I did get to ride one of the other most talked about attractions in Epic Universe, which is Monsters Unchained at the Frankenstein Experiment. This ride is incredible, and I almost did not experience it. I'm gonna yap about what happened to me when I did finally ride the attraction. If you don't want to hear me talk about this story at all and you want to skip to the rest of my thoughts on Dark Universe, I'll flash the time on here. So when I went to the 2 previews, I chickened out of the ride initially. I've never ridden Forbidden Journey, which also uses the KUKA robotic arm. I refused to ride Forbidden Journey mainly because of the motion sickness aspect, but the KUKA robotic arm in general, just as a ride vehicle, terrified me. Monsters Unchained also uses the KUKA robotic arm, although it's a much more updated version of that ride system, and allegedly there was not as many screens. While I can't condone people who chose to film POVs of the rides during the previews and stuff and upload them, I do appreciate those people, because for somebody like me who doesn't typically do a lot of thrill rides, I like watching the POV, so I know what I'm getting myself into beforehand. But the trouble with the POV is that while you can see everything, I can't tell how intense the actual ride vehicle movements are. The fact that it's also an over-the-shoulder restraint mortified me. I've had instances before where I would look at a ride from a POV and then see it in person and then think, oh yeah, I can go on that. And I realized that it was not a good time and I physically did not feel comfortable with it, and then it would lead into a meltdown. I have bad ride anxiety to begin with, especially when it comes to trying thrill rides. The fact that I am autistic just exasperates that. I think I spent an hour walking around back and forth in Dark Universe, seeing the different sites and also talking to multiple team members asking just how bad the ride is. I finally mustered up the courage and I was like, okay, let's finally do this. And I slowly made my way through the queue. There wasn't a very long line, and I'm immediately ushered into the first pre-show, which I think was the pre-show that really amped up the fear to begin with. It's the pre-show where Igor shows you your ride vehicle, and you see it move around and stuff, and then it malfunctions, and it starts doing all kinds of wacky, intense movements, and I was not feeling it. We then go into the second pre-show where you see Victoria and the monster, and then you're taken to the lockers. By the time I made it to the lockers, I went up to a team member who was working at the lockers, Altair, if I'm pronouncing her name right, and I asked her, like I asked all the other team members, how intense is this ride? And by that point, I finally just lost it. I was very emotional, I was very, very panicky, and I started crying. God bless this team member, because she took the time to explain specific ride specs to me about how the ride worked, how fast it went, how intense the movements were, how it would move in certain scenes, and then she said, I can put my stuff in the locker, I can go to the family room to kind of collect myself, and then she was going to come back and check on me. I put my stuff in the locker, I made it to the family room, I sat there for a few minutes. After a few minutes, she comes back in and she's like, hey, I want to take you over here. She took me to the alternative loading station where they would load in people who have mobility devices or walkers. And the reason why she brought me back there specifically was because you can see from that tunnel the end of the ride, and you can see the entirety of the robotic arm as well as its base and the ride track. So I could see just how high up the ground you are. I got an idea of how it tilts and moves briefly. There was another team member who was actually working on loading disabled guests onto the ride vehicle that was in there. His name was Kevin, and he was loading an older woman who was in line with us, and he showed me how you would be loaded into the ride vehicle. And the unique thing with this loading station is that in order to join the rest of the cars on the main track, when it pulls out, the vehicle tips backwards. So he showed me how far back the vehicle tipped. And between all of this, I kept going back and forth between being relieved to starting to panic again, to being relieved to panicking again. At that point, I felt it was necessary to disclose why I was panicking so bad, and how for me, I just processed these things very, very differently, and they were very sweet about it. But then the moment that truly blew me away was when Altair came back and she was like, hey, would you be willing to go on the ride if I went with you? Because I was by myself, I didn't have anybody. And so she offered to ride with me so I wasn't alone. And I was like, are you serious? And she was like, yeah. So her and I got our own ride vehicle, and then we rode the ride. And you know, praise God, the ride is just as incredible as everyone says it is. The animatronics are so fluid and lifelike. You get close enough, but not too close to where you feel like they're gonna actually touch you. Of course, I was in the center seat. I don't know what it feels like on the end seats, and the movements were smooth, butter smooth. Some of these movements, I was shocked how gentle they felt, because this was considered a thrill ride. You are on your back a lot of the time, but it felt like when you go backwards on Haunted Mansion, just tilted back a teeny bit more. No motion sickness, the movements of the vehicle did not bother me. The occasional vibrating in your lower back did not bother me. The Wolfman spitting on you did not bother me. That's actually where they take your ride photo. I was all smiles the entire time. For me, there's a level of guilt when it comes to freaking out or melting down and having a not normal response to certain things. And you know, I felt so guilty being as afraid as I was and being as scared as I was. But the team members that I encountered on that attraction were some of the sweetest human beings I had ever met. And the fact that they went so above and beyond to make sure that I knew that I would be safe on the ride, that it was okay. They didn't mind explaining details to me, and I'm so glad that Altair rode with me. By the time we got off the ride, I was like, that was so cool, and I was so happy, and she was like, hey, I'm so proud of you. I want to give you a hug, and we hugged, and we parted ways. I am so forever grateful for their kindness and their willingness to help me out, you know? I wasn't even expecting anybody to ride with me. That was so out of the blue, and I was just like, I didn't even know you could do that. And thanks to them, I did not chicken out on what I've considered my favorite ride in the entire park. This is also going to go partially into my ranking for how autism-friendly Dark Universe is, which it is for the most part. There isn't a whole lot of shade, but there's a lot of nooks and crannies and specific pathways that aren't as heavily occupied, specifically near DeLacy's cottage. That's a really good area. There's also several spaces by the manor, specifically near the gift shop for the ride's exit. That's also really good. The only thing that bothers me in Dark Universe, speaking from a sensory perspective, is the main queue for the Frankenstein experiment, specifically the fact that there's so many flashing lights and it gets really loud in there. The entire manor in general is very, very loud when you're around its vicinity, and it can be very overwhelming at times. That's actually one of the things that Jack and I agree on, is that Victoria's Castle's driving us a little crazy. So yeah, this land is really, really cool. Do I have any cons with it? A couple minor ones. Mainly is that it feels like it's missing something. With only 2 rides, a gift shop, and a makeup experience, and a couple of restaurants, there really isn't much to Dark Universe. It is the actual smallest portal of Epic Universe in general, so it does feel like there is something missing. The portal has so much opportunity for an expansion. A water ride with the creature from the Black Lagoon would be super dope. But although it may be small and it definitely is in need of an expansion, this portal has some of the best theming, the most fun characters, in my opinion, one of the best rides in the park, some really good food, and some of the most friendly team members that you're going to encounter in the entirety of Epic Universe. So you're probably wondering to yourself, well, gee, if Dark Universe is your favorite portal and you had basically nothing but wonderful things to say about it, why didn't you rank it as the best portal? Well, that's because our final portal in the ranking is the one that I feel like outdoes Dark Universe by a small margin, but it does outdo it, technically speaking. How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk is a land dedicated to the universe of the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. This land has 3 rides, a family roller coaster called Hiccup's Wing Gliders, Dragon Racer Rally, which is a flat ride where you're inside a little pod and an arm swings you up in the air, but you can do barrel rolls in your pod, or you can just choose to sit there and just take in the views, and a family water ride called Fire Drill. There is the second stage show of Epic Universe, which is called the Untrainable Dragon, multiple gift shops, several food places, the main ones being the Mead Hall, Spitfire Grill, and Hooligan's Grog and Gruel, along with dozens of characters from the film franchise, along with, you guessed it, dragons, including Toothless in his own little established meet and greet. This land, in my opinion, is the most complete out of the portals. It's also the largest of the portals as well, which it utilizes that to its advantage. Isle of Berk was the very first portal that we got to walk through when we attended our first preview. Even if you're not the biggest fan of How to Train Your Dragon, even if you're not that familiar with How to Train Your Dragon, like I only watched the first film when I was a kid and I didn't bother with the sequels, this land is Berk. Like, there is no questions about it. It's Berk. It looks like it was ripped straight out of the movie and placed into our plane of existence. This is Berk, and Berk is real, and it's just as breathtaking in person as it is in the movies. The level of detail in Berk is insane. There's dragons everywhere. Little dragon houses in the gift shops, up on the tippy top of the hill, along with like a clothesline with stuff on it. There's the cute little sheep, and it's all Viking themed. Nothing feels like it's in our normal everyday world. This is Berk. Even down to the manholes and the benches. I mean, my goodness gracious, I could go on and on about how detailed this entire land is. You can see dragons all over this portal, from the walk around Stormfly to all of Toothless's little baby children, and even Toothless himself. But even outside of those main ones, you can see other dragons that are sitting in the gift shops, that are sitting outside. There's Gobber's dragon chilling out at his workshop. He sleeps there. Even in the human-sized dryers, there's a little dragon butt sticking out of there. I'm like, oh my gosh, those dragons. Of the 3 rides, I only got to ride one, which was Fire Drill. Fire Drill is a lot more fun than it looks. You can either sit or stand, and you are armed with a water cannon, and your goal is to shoot specific targets. If you shoot the wrong ones, consequences will happen. Hiccup's Wing Gliders is a family coaster that a lot of people have compared to a baby version of Hagrid's, and while I still have a little bit of PTSD from trying Hagrid's, I really do want to try Hiccup's Wing Gliders. It's just that the times that I did get to visit that land, the first time I chickened out, second time I chickened out, third time I was actually going to go on it, but there was a weather delay and it was closed the rest of the day because of the weather. So yeah, next time I will though, because it does look like a lot of fun. And then Dragon Racer Rally, no, there's a ride very similar to that that's at Mall of America that I won't ride. It's only it's themed to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it just looked really high up, and I don't know if I would like the movements of the vehicle very much, even if I decided to not barrel roll, which I guess is very difficult to do with these ones here at Epic Universe. So still, it's a no for me. Sorry, you're not gonna catch me trying it anytime soon. So easily one of the biggest highlights that I have with this land is its stage show, which is the Untrainable Dragon. This is a duplicate of the stage show that's in Universal Beijing, and my goodness gracious, you guys, this show was magical. It's one of the best theme park shows I had ever watched, like ever. It made me cry the first time I saw it. When you see Toothless and Hiccup flying over the audience physically, right? There's an actor sitting on a Toothless and they're flying over the audience with the clouds around them and everything. Oh my gosh, the waterworks were going, let me tell you. It was so cool. That was a level of magic that I had only ever experienced in the Disney parks, so that's something, you know? The characters here are just as good as the one in Dark Universe, if not better, solely because these are so much like their movie counterparts. I had the opportunity to see Gobber a few times. I've gotten to meet the twins. My little sister got to meet Astrid. We did not get to see Hiccup. Hiccup is pretty elusive. We also didn't get to do the Toothless meet and greet, but we have seen it from a distance, and my goodness gracious, I've never wanted to pet a robot so bad. Like, look at him. He sniffs your hand. It's so precious. He's like a big dog, and I love it. When you actually interact with them, you get the sense that these are not actors. These are the characters. Like, these are the characters in the flesh, no comparison. They did their homework. I mean, my goodness, I've seen videos of the Hiccup actor. He acts and sounds and moves just like him. It's almost uncanny. But even if you don't see the movie Vikings, there are other Vikings that are specifically for the park that you can come across, and they're all so fun. And they're so chill. Like, they might as well have been in the movies because they feel like they came out of that universe. It just shows just how immersive the whole land is. Isle of Berk also has, in my opinion, the best food of Epic Universe in general. Those mac and cheese cones, you guys, are like heaven in a bread cone. I got to try the PB&J one, which is not for peanut butter and jelly, it's for pork, bacon, and jam. It's pulled pork and mac and cheese inside a garlic bread cone. What more can you ask for? It's so good. It's not too cheesy, and the meat was cooked really well, and it was tender, and it was super flavorful. I was just like, oh my word, this is so good. I also got the spicy chicken mac and cheese cone when I went by myself on the 30th, and that one was really good too. There is a nice amount of kick, but it's not too terribly spicy. I do like spicy foods though, so it probably just didn't bother me for that reason. You can also just get a mac and cheese cone with just goldfish on top, but if you're like my little sister and you don't like goldfish crackers, they can just make it plain, so it's just mac and cheese inside a bread cone, and that's just as good. Mead Hall also was really surprising with how good their food was. I got the salmon dish. The salmon was so well seasoned and flavorful and tender, and it came with roasted carrots and onions, and it came with a baked potato. I'm looking at this and I'm eating this and I'm thinking to myself, this is theme park food at a quick service restaurant too. And I was just like, this is so good, so shockingly good. for a theme park. I didn't eat at Spitfire Grill, but they also sell the mac and cheese cones there, so it's gonna get a point for that because those mac and cheese cones are literally so freaking good. The entire land is so immersive and it's spacious and it's huge and it feels like there's so much to explore. I didn't even mention the playground that's for little kids that's also in this land. It's right next to Hooligan's Grog and Gruel, and from what I could see of it, it was really cute and it's decent size. It's shaded, little kids can run around and let off some steam while the parents sit down and watch them. As far as how autism friendly this land is, it is for the most part. The biggest thing is that there is no shade and it's definitely the most humid portion of the park because of the big lake that surrounds Burke. But there are several large areas where people can run and sit down if they need to take a break. Because of how big and sprawling this portal is, it never truly feels like it's that crowded. Now granted, I haven't gone back to the park since the 30th. The next time I'm going is in September, which is generally a slower season here in Florida. So I can't speak for how crowded it will feel once full capacity is let through during the summer, but what I can tell you is that from the few times I've been there, I've never really felt overwhelmed. It's never been that noisy to me. The only time I had to wear earplugs was for the stage show because the stage show is absurdly loud. I honestly have no complaints about Burke whatsoever. It's beautifully designed, it has a nice variety of attractions, plenty of gift shops to escape to, plenty of restaurants that also either have shading or they're in AC, some of the most immersive theme park characters that you're going to come across. Really the only con I would have to bring up would be something that's out of Universal's control, which is the fact that it's the most humid portion of the park. Because you've got that big lake, you definitely feel the moisture in the air, especially during our summer months, and I was definitely feeling it all 3 times I visited that portal. But you know, that's such a minor complaint because aside from that, I really have nothing to complain about Burke. It's easily, in my opinion, the best portal of Epic Universe. It's not my favorite because Dark Universe has my heart and soul and it won't give it back, but Burke is definitely the best one of Epic Universe. And that was my ranking. If you made it this far, thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to me. I do try to keep these videos as concise as possible, but you know, when I have so much to say and so much on my mind and I just want to spill out everything that I could possibly spill out, it does tend to make the runtime a tish bit longer. So I do really appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. It really does mean a lot. So I invite you, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what your favorite and least favorite portals were and why. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Be sure to tell your friends and family about the channel. If you guys have any questions or if you just want to say anything at all, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I do always read them. I may even reply. So until next time, I'll see you all soon. Bye.